We're all here today because Mary, Mike, Mom, was so special to us. Here we are counting our blessings for having known her, and yet she was the one who always called herself a lucky duck. We are here today, but there are many others out there thinking of her too, while they're, as Mom would say, moving and doing. That's the essence of today's remembrance of her, and that's her inspiration to all of us. Honey, while the health and wealth holds, to take a trip, reconnect with friends or family, and experience a new adventure. That's my mom. That's Mike. Family, neighbors, charity, church, music, theater, travel, the flora and fauna of nature. Where do we start? Of course, we have to start with her warm smile. Smiling when she greets you, smiling when she hears from you, smiling when she calls you, smiling as she writes to you, smiling when she shares a story or yet more family pictures with a friend or even a perfect stranger, smiling wearing those goofy pumpkin glasses at Halloween, smiling when she nailed the toughest notes in that difficult piece in the choir, smiling when Stumpy the white egret stops outside her window. Always smiling, always smiling. That's Mike. Well, almost always smiling. Were you ever on the receiving end of her disapproving black look? As a kid, I can tell you that I, and all the neighborhood kids, knew it all too well. But how about you? Did you ever try to stop by or call Mike on weekdays between 2 and 4 when her favorite soaps were on? Pop sure got lots accomplished while staying out of harm's way between 2 and 4. But let's step back. Mom was born in Pittsburgh and grew up there during the Great Depression. Her parents came from Slovenia and Croatia, ran a corner store, and raised 2 boys and 2 girls. She'd tell stories of when neighborhood kids would come in, wipe their snotty noses, point to some kind of candy in the counter, and ask, "How many of those do you get for a penny?" Mom loved to tell that story that way, but man, she hated that job. A few years ago, we returned to Pittsburgh and took her to the old neighborhood with her brother Chuck. Maybe the old store was gone, but with their animated stories, we sure saw it. And we found the family cemetery atop a hill. And all of a sudden, Mom and her little brother were like kids again, scurrying from grave to grave, disappearing from sight, pointing this way and that way, telling each other yet another family story, and always smiling. After graduating from Oliver High School, she made the big move to Washington, D.C. during World War II. She worked as a secretary at AT&T. Eventually, she got to know the guys at the Hutch, a boarding house on Kalorama Road. Most significantly, that Navy guy, Walter Luthy from Bloomfield, New Jersey. Mom's maiden name was Mixick, and Pops called her Mixie, which eventually turned into Mike. We came across some photos of them then, and boy, was she smiling. They married in 1950 and moved to that dinky town, at that time anyway, of Rockville, Maryland. They had a son, John, in 1952. What a mom. I loved trains. Mom would pick me up from kindergarten, take me to Dairy Queen for a takeout lunch, and we'd wait at the Rockville train station until the dailies stopped by, and we'd watch them unload the baggage car. Then followed their dividend baby, daughter Susan, in 1962. Sue recalls that when she was home, sick from school, she would eat Mom's special Eggman sandwich, lying down next to Mom on the sofa with the theme of The Days of Our Lives in the background. Wow, so when duty called, Mom could be distracted from her soaps. That's our mom. Fast forward now, and Mike smiled when her granddaughter Elena, Binky, and then grandson Sean came on the scene. She smiled too when she met their spouses along the way, Nick and Danielle. Mom's love of travel began in 1963 when the Luthys took off for a tour of duty in the Mediterranean island of Cyprus. history, new languages, new foods, new lifestyles, new scenery. It was eye-opening and Mom took it all in. But when ethnic strife set in, Mom's smile disappeared for a while. Pops survived a bomb blast at the embassy nearby, and the next day we were evacuated to Beirut, Lebanon. At the time, that was the safest, closest spot in the region. But she toughed it out, and the family was reunited and reassigned to Athens, Greece for a few years. After that assignment, we returned to the old homestead in Rockville, Maryland, until, as fate would have it, we had the chance to return to Greece in 1970. Following that tour of duty, which involved many, many more exciting travels and experiences, Pops was able to retire, and they fulfilled their lifelong dream to settle in Florida in 1973. They joined many former colleagues and friends here in the Seminole area. Mom joined Calvary Episcopal Church and sang in the choir as an alto. She so enjoyed the singing, palling around, and pageantry. In later years, and with regret, though she was unable to process with the choir, she still smiled when she told us as she was appointed to read the announcements yet again. And she always looked forward to joining the brunch bunch at Maria's kitchen. Yes, she thoroughly enjoyed music. Back in Maryland, I remember vividly coming home from high school on laundry day, wondering why my James Brown album was on the turntable next to the washer. She'd start dancing, smile at me, and sing, "I feel good!" Here in Florida, she became a regular performer with the Suncoast Singers for many years. With regret, in later years, when she was unable to stand or hold music for long periods, she had to retire. Mom's sister Irene, Renee, moved here from Pittsburgh, enjoying family and theater together. Mom was a patron of Ruth Eckerd Hall and attended many an 8 o'clock, 2 o'clock performance with Renee, Loretta, and others. I'm told that, following the performance, they would go out for a bite to eat and that she would enjoy a healthy measure of dewars, and that would trigger an extra smile or two, I am sure. For a while, Mom worked at Dr. Brown's Largo office. In her letter of reference, he wrote, and I quote, "She proved herself a loyal employee who was trustworthy and cheerful, especially to those who were sick and in time of need." She also joined the Seminole New Neighbors, and we have pictures of her modeling in their fashion shows, smiling, beaming, of course. She loved to travel, whether on a cruise or some planes, trains, and automobiles trip adventure with family and friends. After Pops died, she still racked up the miles, even if it cost her $1.98. Mom always had the drive to do the things she wanted to do. "I can do it," was her mantra, though eventually she also accepted the reality of what she could and couldn't do. Family and friends always commented on Mom's ability to acknowledge, like clockwork, their birthday, anniversary, or whatever the auspicious occasion might be. She smiled as she reached out to them and knew that they would smile back at her. Very loving, very special. When her key lime tree was producing a bumper crop, she would mail some to us kids so we could make a key lime pie, anticipated by all the family members and friends during the holidays. Also, I understand she would carefully pluck those limes, place them in a basket, and take them everywhere with her to share. Post office line, bank, hairdresser, didn't matter. She would hand them out with a smile. Through the years, when Pops saw Mike lifting furniture while cleaning and seemingly moving mountains, he'd call her Powerful Katrinka and Klondike Mike. She was very strong-willed and independent, which kept her moving and doing all those years. She certainly got inner strength and comfort from her daily readings of Pops's Bible. But then a month ago, Mike's situation turned for the worse. she was diagnosed with lung cancer. Uncharacteristically, about a week ago, while in the hospital, she told Sue, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." That night, she lapsed into a coma, and soon thereafter, she passed away. But get this, she didn't pass away until that very moment when her children had arrived from afar and assembled in her house one more time, safe and sound, together. Only then did she pass on her own terms. Wow. So in keeping with her love of family, friends, and travel, please celebrate Mike by breaking your routine, visiting someplace new, and reconnecting with someone special to you. And keep smiling!